What is going on, Nuggets Nation NBA fans? My name is Tom Leuthner. Welcome back to another episode of Nuggets Today, presented by Fan Arch. Obviously, we have some things to talk about. And the first thing I want to talk about is I'm sure if you're a Nuggets fan and you follow them on, any social media account or anything in general, you would know that Danny Green was on a podcast talking about Russell Westbrook and how the Denver Nuggets wanted to bring him in wanted to have him back, but they weren't going to play him this upcoming season, which I think is I just don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't think that, and their whole point was that he would be playing, or there would be guys playing over him that weren't talented enough to play over him, and I think that they were maybe talking about Jalen Pickett in that aspect a little bit. That's just my personal belief on that, because they were saying that there's guys that should be playing over him. So I don't know who that could be, unless maybe they think Bruce, if they discussed having Bruce over, bringing Bruce back. But Strother maybe, Watson. I don't know who it may be, but the only person in my mind was that could be was Jalen Pickett, because I think that anybody on our bench that Russ should be playing over realistically is Jalen Pickett. So I don't know. It's funny to me. I don't understand the point of not playing a guy like Russell Westbrook when you need a backup point guard realistically. And I know everybody gets tired with the whole backup point guard thing and all that, but like I said, I just don't get it. I think that he was a good player for for Denver last year. I also think that he could have played the correct role whereas last year he wasn't playing that correct role. Last year he was playing a role of almost, like it was like a Kyle Korver type role on offense, where he's standing in the corner and he's waiting for the ball to get past him to try to shoot a wide open three, which isn't his game. He's not a shooter. I mean, that's, it's like Andre Drummond shooting threes for you. Not that Russ is that bad of a shooter, and no disrespect to Russ, because I actually liked him and I want him back, or I wanted him back, I guess, since they're not going to bring him back. But like I said, I think that he could have been a massive part of this Denver team this year rather than the way they played him last year. And I think that it's super upsetting that Denver wouldn't have played him this year, and now I'm understanding exactly why he actually opted out. Because, like I said, it makes sense for him to do so since he wasn't going to get playing time, especially if Jalen Pickett is the guy that's going to get minutes over him. There's nothing I think that Pickett does better than Russ. Maybe shooting, but even then, I'm still iffy on the whole Jalen Pickett thing. So I don't know. Very interesting take from Danny Green, especially getting the inside information from a guy like Danny Green. But super interesting. Like I said, it's intriguing to see now what they do with their backup rotation, or if they even bring up a backup point guard when Jamal needs some breaks. And I just realized I spelled about wrong. Some news about Russ, not about Bauer. But talking about point guards, I want to talk about Jamal a little bit and what we've seen from Jamal. I think he looks more smooth than we've ever seen him. And I think that he's become a leader of this team. And I was talking to Stretch, and, Stretch and I talk a lot about the Nuggets, and I really appreciate having the conversations with him because it's good to get somebody's insight. And, he's talking to me about the Warriors and the Nuggets. And I think that my point today was that if Jamal didn't step up as a leader and, they just sort of went about the season the same way they had the last couple of years, I think that Jokic would just sort of get fed up. Maybe he signs the extension. Maybe he doesn't honor the entire extension, depending on what that would entail later on or further down his career. But I think Jamal needed to step up as a leader. One, because of Jokic. Two, because I think without him doing that, Denver doesn't get to where they need to be at, realistically. You're the second best player on this team, or so the media portrays you as the second best player. I think it's Aaron Gordon. But you are also the longest tenured guy outside of Jokic, in this organization. You have to be the guy who's initiating the runs, the workouts, the planning when it comes to doing whatever when you're working with a younger generation of Nuggets and when you're working with the newer talent. Jokic isn't a guy who he leads by more of example than anything, I feel like. Maybe he's a vocal leader during the season, but I don't think he's a guy that's going to initiate being that leader. I think that, like I said, during the season, when it comes to the games, he's going to be the leader. He's going to tell you exactly what you need. It sounds like he gives players advice, but he's not the guy who's going to go, okay, we're going to go work out today. That's the thing that Jamal and AG are going to do. And I think that it was massive for Jamal to take that step up. And I also think that he looks better than he ever has. He looks slimmed down. He looks motivated, and his jump shot just looks so much more comfortable now than I think I've ever seen it. I feel like there was maybe a little bit of a hitch in his shot. I felt the same way with AG last year. I think a couple guys in Denver, there's a little bit of a hitch, but it looks like Jamal lost that hitch, and he's just, that follow through is phenomenal. The form is just amazing. I think that, like I said, he looks more smooth now than we've ever seen him, maybe since the bubble or even the championship run he's had his game. So I think it's a massive factor for Denver to want to win another championship is Jamal being as smooth as he looks in this preseason. The next guy I want to talk about is obviously that vocal leader, or the guy that leads by example more than anything, and that is Nikola Jokic. And there's been a lot of talk about Nikola, and I just think that he's a guy who, like I said, leads by example more than anything, but he's also a guy who his weight sort of like fluctuates, I guess you could say. I don't even know how to explain it. He's a guy where every year it's a conversation about his weight and what he looks like and how he looks. And it's funny because during the Eurobasket, I thought that he looked heftier. I thought he looked bigger. But now during preseason, I feel like he looks skinnier. And it looks like he's more in shape. It looked like out of shape. He looked out of shape in Eurobasket, and now he looks better than I think I've seen him in the last couple of years. So it's funny because I think his weight fluctuates, and I think that he works when it comes to the NBA. And I think that he knows he needs to be in a certain shape, especially because of what Denver was able to do this offseason, where the additions they were able to make, and they were actually putting together a championship roster, and I think that he was more motivated. But I'm curious to think or to hear your guys' takes on how Jokic actually looks. If you guys think he looks more slim, if you guys think he looks bigger and whatnot. But like I said, I think that in my opinion, he looks a little bit skinnier now. He looked bigger in the Eurobasket, and he looks a little bit thin now, but he's moving well, and I'm excited. I think that I'm not sure what to expect. I think he's still going to play an MVP level, but I think that we see some of his stats go down just because of how stacked this team up is. Maybe his assists go up, and I think maybe his points go down a little bit. Either that or they're going to play through other players, and that's just going to mean he gets open more naturally and he scores even more. So I'm very excited to see what potentially thin Jokic can do for the Denver Nuggets this upcoming season. And the last thing I want to talk about, since preseason's still going on, the Denver Nuggets haven't played a game in quite some time now for preseason, just around the league and what's happening and who's playing well, who's not, East-West as well. The first person I want to bring up is Cason Wallace now. Didn't shoot well for the Thunder 2 nights ago now, but 6, 10, and 8 is a scary number from a potential backup point guard / shooting guard, especially on a Thunder team that was very, very, very talented. Ousmane Dieng actually had a terrible game, and I know the other day I covered him, and I said that it makes me a little nervous that he was actually playing the way he was. So it's nice to see him not have a good game from a strict hater standpoint, a Nuggets fan. And then that was really it from the Western Conference. There wasn't many Western Conference games 2 nights ago, and this episode is being recorded, obviously, after those games. There was the Timberwolves and the Knicks, which actually the Timberwolves choked away in overtime. Doesn't really matter. Ant had his 17 points. He didn't shoot that well from the field. Dante had a terrible game, 3, 5, and 3. Randall had his 16 and 5. Then you have Gobert doing nothing offensively, 5 and 11. And then Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon, I believe Terrence Shannon, 10 and 11 points. Johnny Juzang, another 8-point game. And I don't think, and Bones didn't do much. Bones only had 2, but 2 guys, Johnny Juzang and Bones, who look good this preseason. And like I said, I'm excited for the rest of the preseason. Something about seeing these younger guys play, play basketball in the preseason and get the opportunity. I'm ready to see Deron Holmes play for the Nuggets more and see what he's all about. So I'm excited for a potential Deron Holmes game in a couple nights when that preseason game comes about. But that's all I got for you guys today, Nuggets Nation. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I'll catch you guys tomorrow.